Welcome back to CounterStocks, and my portfolio is, well, struggling would be hyperbolic, but it's not doing as well as it certainly could do. As you see down here, I'm up to 97 points, only a 24% change in value, which at surface level, when trading these kinds of teams, when taking a look into this very speculative market, you'd expect to be very happy with. But my colleague over here, just next to me, has had quite the change in fortunes after a positive but not particularly enthralling opening to the season. He has had a 100% increase in value, an incredible turnaround. Technically, still, behind and matching his first month's production, but considering my inability to match my numbers, it is quite startling, and it is relatively impressive that you've managed to keep this sort of growth going. So I'm not really sure what to put it up to. Maybe I've had a bad month, you just had a normal one, or I don't know.
You clearly have very different investment strategies. You seem to be going and angling for a lot of these sort of penny stocks, and there's ups and downs that go with it. But I'm just looking for stable returns on my investments, and so far I'm getting that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Iberian Soul's not exactly blue chip, but you bought at the right time. I, on the other hand, got absolutely screwed over by Johnny Speeds, who, by the way, the hell, guys. Why'd you decide to make all these roster moves and just shit the bed and drop down 16 VRS ranks? I don't know, but that cost me heavily. I mean, despite all that, we were not both saved, but myself mostly saved by the Spirit performance. I mean, given the sorts of teams we like to pick, we were pretty much guaranteed that payout from Cologne, but that's a prestige event. That's 25 points in dividends we both received for our Spirit stocks, so we are very happy with that. But aside from that, yeah, for me personally especially, pretty underwhelming. -2 from G2, -6 from Spirit Academy. They were short, actually. That was positive. But more importantly, only 6 points from a team like Tricked, who I kept on, who in my opening sort of foray, my opening month, were worth 29 points between regular VRS changes and their dividend payouts. So, yeah, heavy change around. For you, a lot of just small increments. Furia up 3, Astralis up 3, Paravision up 2, G2 -2, but a short stock, so up another 2. Most of them were just very little steady climbs. You lost 2 for Falcons, the same way I did, but nothing too dramatic. And I think that might be your continued strategy going forward. There are a few more controversial, more interesting, potentially, as you frame it, penny stocks picked up in your current portfolio. But for both of us, it's 4 out, 4 in. You can see the 4 gaps currently on screen. We're going to start off, though, by discussing one of the changes you've made that I haven't. And that's going to be Falcons. Now, the Falcons, yeah, I'll let you lead off in a sec, but it is a pretty hot-button topic, isn't it? Big roster move, event results not going the right way. Why have you stepped away from them?
I essentially am looking at the way that they want to perform. I was actually concerned about Kyousuke coming into the roster at first. Wasn't sure if he'd be able to replicate his output, but I'm getting that from this team, or I'm getting it from Kyousuke at the moment. I think the major problem is seeing the deterioration and just the absence of m0NESY and Nico in terms of being, high output fraggers. I need them to be consistent if I want Kyousuke to actually raise this team out of the doldrums and into proper contention when there are, other teams that have won tournaments this year in attendance. And I think I'd like to draw this comparison. I had this conversation with a friend recently, but the idea of Donk and the way that he plays on Spirit, I don't think it kind of goes underappreciated. I think just how much the team has to accommodate, just how active and how much movement Donk does on a CT side in particular. Like, if you ever watch Donk play, he plays like an AWPer. Like, he is actually being put around the map, round to different bomb sites. He doesn't really have like a static position on CT sides, and a lot of the teammates kind of just have to pick up the slack. And if you want Kyousuke to be a high element fragger, you almost have to give that guy the same amount of freedom as the rookie, even though you've got m0NESY, Nico. Like, those guys are going to be the ones that have to pick up the slack potentially. And I think until I guess I can't envision Falcons changing their entire system or the way they play to try and accommodate that type of player properly down the stretch. I mean, I haven't seen them make strong adaptations tactically over the past few several iterations of the roster or these opening months in the year. So I guess that's where my concern is. I'm not necessarily saying they can't win stuff and they won't win stuff, but I guess I've lost some of my interest in the team, given that I was expecting at least a decent performance from these other key pieces, and it seems like those may take a hit in trying to get Kyousuke to work.
Yeah, I understand the reservations. And of course, as much as Donk, he doesn't get that sort of... Because when people talk about Donk being set up by his team, it's not so much that he is just flashed out by like 3 different flashbangs and there's this bit of util, there's someone to trade every single time. It's more that, yeah, in terms of especially the CT side play, he is going to want to float. He is going to want to do whatever comes to his mind. And that was one of my key concerns for Kyousuke when he was coming out of this academy and the way he's playing in the academy. And the reason they don't want him on Spirit's main team is because he has very much the same approach and sort of attitude. He wants to be active. He's antsy. He doesn't want to sit still. You see it on rounds where he should be sitting still. He should be tucking and waiting and then swinging. Nah, he's still going to jiggle. He's still going to even like just float around, try and move a bit closer to a choke point, do something that necessarily I wouldn't advise. Like, I don't think would be the right play to do, but he just physically can't stop himself moving. It's just how he's wired. So there are accommodations to be made. I just think it's a bit absurd to imagine they won't be able to make it. I think for this team, they're going to be able to figure it out between their minds they have, the players they have, the players, honestly, if they're not going to be playing that strictest system, the players they have in terms of their ability to pug and just frag out. Guys like Nico, guys like m0NESY, they're going to be able to adapt to it. They're going to be able to play make. I think in the long run, this will work out. I don't expect them to be a guaranteed event win, but I expect them to pick up at least one in the coming sort of months. You know, maybe on home soil in the EWC, they can get something done. But also their ranking, 7th on VRS, I think it's a touch low. They're going to be able to overpower certain teams with more consistency going forward. I think they'll climb back up. It won't be a dramatic shift unless they win a couple big events, but it's something that I think is still worth holding on to just in case they have that run, because they definitely have it within them.
Yeah, and maybe a month or two from now, in a couple of episodes, I will think, oh, actually, I should get back into the Falcon ship. But I don't think in the coming month and the coming events, I am going to see enough of an improvement where, I mean, they are one of the 4 teams that has won an S tier event this year. So, you know, I can't really argue that they can't be seen as contenders. I just don't think that's going to happen quick. So,
yeah,
I won't short them. I won't invest in them. They're gone.
Fair enough. We'll see how it works out. For me, this is a roster that just can't fail. I just refuse. Like, I've had that feeling before on shows we've done, in conversations we've had. I think, for me, the most successful of those was, there's no way this heroic team can be this bad. And that was the Nerds edition of that heroic roster. And they did at that event then go on and make top 4 or top 8. And I was like, yeah, thank you. Thank you. There's just something about it where it just doesn't feel right that they could be this underwhelming. As a debut performance, though, I do want to say, hats off to Kyousuke. I mean, there's certain things you could expect him to sort of replicate, to muster up as far as being a very hard entry, hitting certain headshots. You're like, yeah, we expect that. We saw him do it in the academy. But there are parts of the comp that I think to Donk that I thought might be a bit difficult to manage, especially given Donk this year has been almost unparalleled as far as his success with half-buys, with deagles, all this kind of stuff. He hit every note. You know, he was the very aggressive entry. He was able to hit a lot of crazy headshots on that front, but he was also effective with a deagle. Really dangerous in every single round. And that's an aspect that strategy can't really account for. I can't really scheme up something that will guaranteed deal with Kyousuke swinging something and hitting 2 headshots. And the fact that he brought that to the table, I think, is really threatening. And imagine on a day where m0NESY decides his wrist is going to work. Nico decides he's not old and washed up anymore. He's actually still in his prime, which somehow he's decided every year for the last 5 years that he's still somehow in his prime, even though it feels like it should be well past him by now. That's my sort of hope. That's what I'm clinging to about this roster. And I think, sure, maybe this exact month might not be the one, but they've got a couple of events. You know, they're not exactly open fields, but with teams now being able to upset each other more, I think we saw that door open with the Mao's victory this weekend. I think that creates the possibility for very favourable brackets to play out as far as being the team who's 4th best. Dangerous.
This is just as my sort of exit point, though, you could talk about Nico Monacy playing, more puggy style, Kyousuke
Being
far more
capable of
familiar
it,
with
yeah.
it. Yeah, being capable of it. But Kixon and Tessus, I don't know that I can see them being able to make that work
Sure.
so easily. And then if you look at it from Nico and Monacy's point of view, if I think there's every team has a weak element to them. Almost always a player that is probably not going to come away with a double kill. And when you are, you're like, oh, great job, Magix or whoever it is at the time.
Magisk,
Like, yeah,
or
or
Kixan, or
yeah.
Chopper. Like, wow,
Yeah, you're always pleasantly surprised, but if they don't, you're not upset because you kind of come to expect it.
Yeah.
I think if you're looking at it from Monacy and Nico's point of view, you essentially have like 3 unreliable teammates on CT sides that, Kyousuke will probably get his multi-kill, but he won't be covering an angle that you're probably hoping that he protects you from reliably. He might be jiggling, or his attention might be drawn somewhere else for a moment. I think there are quite a few susceptibilities to there are actually other external factors aside from Nico Monacy's not hitting his shots or Nico's not hitting his shots than just that. I think there's area denial parts of their CT. I guess I'm mainly worried about their CT sides because that seems to be where the most activity is. And it's, I think, where the most gaps are going to have to be filled for the Falcons.
Yeah. I still have some belief. You're not interested in taking that risk. Let's move on to a team that we're both keeping hold of, and despite everything, I don't think we should be too worried about it. We're holding on to Vitality, because as I put it in the lower third right there, they have finally lost a series. Who cares? Let's be real. This is a team you just can't give up on. We saw such dominance in the first half of the year, saw them rampaging through any opposition, and then this event, we come in, we get the weakest ZywOo we've seen all year. He's only good in the seeding match. Despite that, they won the first 2 games of the group, and then they go into playoffs, and yeah, they lose in two maps, but he played horribly. Like, we're not really that concerned. I don't expect ZywOo's level to be this for the rest of the year, so I don't see how they fall out of this sort of top 3 elite contenders expected to win everything sort of zone. Do you have any concerns about that?
I think the major concern coming into the Cologne playoffs was actually that Mezzy was the highest rated player for them for basically the Cologne group
Mezzy
stage.
the fragger, man. I mean, Mezzy's the fragger.
And this is the thing, in spite of ZywOo kind of disappearing, I don't think I've seen a more dialed in and more crisp Rops and Mezzy. These are anchor players. Like, both of them are actually having incredible tournaments, and I think from that view, I mean, ZywOo had to play mediocre. Unfortunately, he didn't even really do that.
No.
And they probably would have come away with a series win over Mal's in the end. But it still fills me with a lot of confidence that there's so many other pieces on this team that are just so strong right now. They are the best team in the world, I would say. In most conversations for role, they have a player comfortably in the top 5, some even top 3 in their positions. So it's one result like this isn't enough for me to be scared off.
No, me neither. And you're right about them having that sort of depth, that versatility. I mean, most positions you're like, okay, Rob's a lurker. Yeah, he might be number 2 at worst, probably number 1. Like, in terms of that anchor lurker profile, Flame Z, Apex, Mezzy. At worst, they're like number 4. Like, maybe Flame Z is 5 because just of the competitive nature of the very aggressive opener sort of position right now. The role in the scene has a lot of really strong pieces, but all in all, Vitality's roster is absolutely stacked and loaded. And the fact that they took the worst player on their team playing, was it a .63 rated series, and Flame Z to also have a dreadful train, although watching his POV is... It's like, remember that one time Elige had a dreadful series, or dreadful map, and everyone watched their POV and was like, I guess he just got unlucky. Flame D's was a bit like that, where you're like, this is... Oh, that's brutal. He's just looking the wrong way.
I know.
He gets the 90 damage tag and shot by a teammate or something like that. Like, he could have got way more kills.
He died through smokes probably like 4 out of 5 rounds. And then when he walked through smokes, he 50-50'd on the angle. Like, two times he got it wrong. And then he should have, the one kill he did get, he probably should have actually died. Like, he got caught off by a player walking through a smoke. That map was definitely just unlucky for Flames, I think.
Yeah, so they should be expected to remain on top of the scene for now, as long as there's not some weird thing that kind of goes wrong internally, nothing silly happens. Like, they should be able to understand we were the best team anyone had ever seen for the first half of the year. We had one little blip. We should be able to shrug this off. Like, look, by the time Apex's hair comes back out, they'll have won another event. Like, by the time he's not looking like a hooligan, they'll have won another event. Don't you worry. Bald Apex will win an event. So this is a guaranteed keep. No real concern. The worst thing that can happen to this team is maybe by the time we next do an update on our sort of portfolio, they'll have dropped 1 ranking. If they really shit the bed in the next couple of events, if it goes so horribly wrong. They've got such a great VRS advantage, though, that it doesn't really matter. But just if it's a -1, we'll take it. We take it. We're not that bothered about that. We're happy to keep Vitality, and they should be very confident with themselves going forward. Our next team is a team, well, we both have them, actually. Yeah, we do both have them. This is Team Spirit. Kind of have to be talked about. They managed to win Cologne. Now, a lot of people are very excited, myself as well. This obviously sparked off a number of conversations which no one was really ready to have, as in people entered the conversation half-cocked and made a bunch of terrible takes. But for me, this is a team who have not proven what I needed them to prove at this event. Like, sure, they beat Mouse in a big game. Great. I needed you to beat Vitality. For me to be like walking out of this being like, this is the #1 team. They can be fine forever. I also needed Zwei to play better than Magic's used to. He didn't. He really didn't. He played a lot of the same roles, as pretty much expected. But in moments where, especially this is what frustrates me, there are opponents where he's like, holding extremity, just to make a very passive angle. And a fight presents itself, and he doesn't win it. So you might as well have had Magics. You might as well have had Magics on the team, especially if you're not going to Chopper and Halley, especially if you're not going to change the system at all. If this kid's going to whiff the same shots Magic's did, what was the point? Like, what was the point? If you're not going to allow him to play his own style, you're going to force him back into those sort of positions, you might as well have never made a change. I should have kept the fan favourite. Just kept farming the fucking, like, the aura, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Rather than trying this sort of thing. But that's my problem with Spirit at this event. Fantastic donk event. Like, donk. Just smacking heads off, multi-killing, entrying. The most, I think, stark sort of this is unfair round is that Ancient round where I think it's right towards the end of Ancient against Mouse. He's just in a molly and just kills 3 people. I'm like, you have no right. Like, these are just straight up duels. They all know where exactly he is. They swing him, shoot, he shoots them first. Like, kills them first, even if he doesn't land the first bullet. It's outright nasty. And so it's so hard to counter, so hard to play against. Cologne, huge win. Don't complete CS. I don't know about you, but I liked it. I liked elements of it. I didn't quite see what I needed to.
I think the good takeaway is that the addition of Jouet made Donk cry. They won Cologne, and Donk couldn't hold back the tears. Because, listen, I know you're saying fantastic Donk event. I agree. But Shiro actually had a very strong event. Zontix had a solid event. Had very key rounds that he did deliver for Spirit in their run.
Zontix had a very Zontix event, yeah.
Yeah. But he played, I mean, when I think about the win condition for Spirit and what we've talked about before about, some of those players going missing in grand finals or going missing in some of those playoff events, you need that trifecta to perform. When they had Magics, that was the same conversation we had. Like, if that trifecta is hitting, they are probably one of the strongest teams in the world. And this was an event where actually the precursor matches they had actually did show signs of that. Like, Zontix was doing what he needed to do in late closing moments. He was getting his kills on sites. Shiro was doing what Shiro does as well. Some clutches, a lot of supplementary frags, especially in securing rounds. And you had Donk on a heater. I don't know that that's necessarily Jouet that does that, but I think there is a case to be made that, Spirit see that as a winning formula. They want to keep it, and they understand that if they try to dislodge, because Zontix and Jue have actually some role crossover for like T side responsibility, especially like lurking and extremities play. And there's arguments that you could say, why isn't Jue doing that? But Zontix has been doing it with Spirit for so long that he's actually, all the flashes and the calls that they make that Zontix sometimes has to sacrifice his spots to then do. If they put Jue in that position as they get into playoffs, the probability of him fucking it up is probably exacerbated by the environment. So
yeah.
I think the promising sign though is that Jue improved as he went into the playoffs. Like he actually found like a stable level in the semis and into the finals versus the group stage where he was actually just a liability.
He was bottoming out like crazy. I was
Yeah.
so worried because I talked this kid up. I loved the move. I was like, Jue was so good on Amiga, and look what he could probably add to this Spirit side as far as like an extra playmaker, another player who can actually perform in a big game, find a key frag or two. In reality, Spirit still seem to just need Donk and no one else. And just even worse though, if you're not on Team Spirit, you look at this team and you think, there's one guy. Okay, playoff ratings. Try to guess. Donk in the playoffs is a 1.47 rating. What do you think the gap is between him and second on the team? So 0.47 down to what? What do you think it is?
It's like a 1.14 or something.
So Shiro is 0.38 behind him at 1.09. He's not even a 1.1 rated player. There's just so little star power behind Donk. It's all him. Like, it's actually absurd. The 100 ADR, 27% multi-kill rate is basically all they need. Everyone else can be a borderline bot fragger. Zontix is coming out of this event with like Perfecto on Prime Navi numbers, like 0.56 KPR, basically just doesn't die, is present, like doesn't really need to do anything. It is an absurd thing to watch, and especially to play against, where you're like, I feel like I'm playing 5v1 and still losing. Like he's still doing so much, this one guy, that it's just unfair. Now, obviously, as I said, I have my reservations. I don't think this is good enough to make them the best team of the next 6 months.
Sure. If
the Zwei move had worked how we'd hoped, how I'd liked, rather, could have been. Like, if we're talking about an upgrade, makes them even more lethal. So far, they haven't really shown that lethality. I do feel like Mouse had a bit of a hangover coming off of their finally, like, climbing the mountain. Like, you're talking, like, they were fresh from Everest and asked them enter a boxing match. They're like, what the fuck do you mean? I need my oxygen tank, bro. Like, I'm not ready for this.
The real killer was watching Torji, like, he couldn't contain his laughter and his happiness beating Vitality finally. And it was just like, oh my god. I mean, we know that the job's not done, but he couldn't stop laughing. Like, he couldn't stop, like, you could tell almost from that moment that it's like,
they were cooked.
I know he's saying one thing, he wants to believe it, but he, like, actually can't convince his psyche that there is another as important, as big a game to play in the following day. And sure enough, I mean, Torji, CT side specialist, maybe the best CT AWPer in the world, may have had one of his worst CT ratings in that final. It was... there were a lot of things that went wrong for Maus. But I think if I have to sort of give this as a final point, the Jue, like, we are so wrapped up in trying to find solutions and hoping that things land and seeing the improvement immediately. I think if Jue just does Magic's output for these opening couple events, maybe a month or two, I would still see that as a success for Spirit, because Jue is 17. Like, Magic has gone through his star level performance output at one point in his career, changing roles, all that stuff. Like, Jue has a lot of potential to grow, and if his output is right now Magic's on big stage events, but you can see how good he can be when he's more comfortable with the level of opposition and what they have to do. There's greater growth opportunities for the pieces on the roster. So I think this is a long-term thing, unfortunately for Spirit. Maybe it won't win them the next couple of events, but Jue is an upgrade and should be an upgraded down the road for Spirit, and is actually, I think, a solid roster move. He could end up failing. You know, I think that's the same thing. I believed this about Buzz, for example, but it doesn't always come together.
Yeah, and also teams don't always give them the time. That's quite important. And I think Spirit have shown anything over the course of their tenure in CS, they're willing to give you time. They've given Chopper and Magix infinite time, seemingly, relative to their output at the end of the day. But yeah, just a quick note to end on. I said this debate had come up. Do you want to get your take on the record? All time, is Donk the GOAT rifler? Now, when I say all time, sorry, the conversation always starts at CSGO. I always have to be like, are we seriously doing all time, but we're not going to count 1.6? Okay, fine, whatever. From Go onwards, just for reference, because no one who argues about this stuff ever watched 1.6, so there's no point in really talking about it.
I think, okay, if I have to say in terms of like pure height, I'd say yes.
Well, yeah, that's
pure height of output. Yeah, that's an easy thing to say. But when people say all time, they're usually talking about longevity, and it's still too early in Donk's career to call that. Now, if he keeps this up for another I'd even say another 2 years. If he has this level of output, like he's improving year to year, by the way.
That's the craziest part.
That's a whole other issue, actually.
He went from tier 2 to tier 1, his numbers got better, and then he got better again. Like, what the hell, dude?
They were like, oh, guys, we're going to nerf him with this Swinger's Advantage update. No, he's actually just as good. Yeah, if he continues to improve, like, over the next year, 2 years, I think it's very easy to call it then and there. Like, his level of output versus the amount of consistent output that Nico did for however many years. 9-10 years.
Basically a decade, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of accolades, Donk's already there. But if we're talking just like mechanics and eye test and who he is as a player, an all-time conversation is a longevities conversation, unfortunately.
Yeah, he does need to add it. That was for me, when I first heard the question asked, I was just like, no, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. It's just not long enough. And one of the things I think people miss in this debate specifically is like, yeah, we've never seen Donk before. You do understand we've never seen Nico before either. There is no such thing as a 10-year prime. There's no such thing as being, at worst, the third best rifler in the world for more than usually 2 years. He's done it for basically 10. This is unprecedented. This is unparalleled. And then another note,
Yeah. No. If what they're saying is best rifler of all time, as in like best height, then we can just have that conversation. It's fine. But then we have to change the nomenclature attached to Nico, and we'd say like the most consistent rifler of all time. Like that's probably how we have to.
Because for me, it does have to be a number of factors like built in.
Sure.
When we talk about the greatest, it is inherently multiple things. It's always going to be the combination of what your career total is. And Donk's career total is kind of insane, especially considering how short that fucking book is. But every page is like layered in gold.
Once he wins another Cologne, another Kato, and another major, we're just calling him the GOAT in all categories, actually.
Yeah. We have to, pretty much. But the note I just wanted to touch on, because there's a lot of chatter. Always, there's endless bickering about ZywOo Donk, number 1 player in the world. Just a reminder, in playoffs, Donk has more traded deaths than trade kills. He is still a hard entry. He's not some guy purely getting set up. He still is listed, if you go by like Skybox Edge, in terms of the positions he sometimes holds defensively. He holds some anchor positions, like a third of the time on CT side. He's not a purely hard setup star who is just being fed his numbers. He's just that good. Like, it's kind of puzzling, almost unfair. He's just that good.
Yeah, all debates always come down to what do you see as your criteria? It almost always these massive narrative debates are always, what is your criteria and how are you grading the paper? But not everyone shares the same guidelines.
People can have different guidelines, but the problem is when they do not understand how to express what their guidelines are, and typically make basic cock-ups, very basic stuff, like talking about players, how decorated a player is, and then you're like, do you mean just MVPs? Do you mean MVPs and titles and EVPs? What are you referring to? And they quite often just lack specificity, and therefore get bogged down in bullshit.
And that's where we start calling each other names.
Well, I've been on the forums. Names generous. Slurs is the word I usually associate with the things.
I'll try to soften the blow there.
It's always slurs. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Those forums are not a safe space. But yeah, let's move on to a completely different level of CS. Foot. You've picked this team up, and I've given it the pass. Now, I want you to sell me on why you've bought this stock. Give me the details. Give me the vision, really, as to what this team is going to be.
Well, the advantage they have is that they are a 36th ranked VRS team. They are, for people that are out of the know, Foot is the ex-Navi Juniors core. It's 4 pieces from that, in fact, that they've then coupled with Misuta underfoot. And because of their ranking, they are within invite territories, not for the major just yet, but they are just sitting outside of that bracket. And they're just they've got really good pieces. Like, you have fantastic, Demon, Symmetry, Jugas. These guys actually are like a very competent core of riflers, and then Krabany as like caller, fighter, rifler, kind of just has incredible output at this level as well. Like, I actually would not be surprised if they make it to the major. It's kind of staggering to me that the conversation around ex-Navi Junior was like, oh, we're trying to sell them, but we've got no buyers, guys, I don't know what's going on. And that they've been allowed to continue competing and then sign for a different organization. First off, shout out Na'Vi for being cool enough to do that, because based on their position, they could have actually just left them in contract, in like a minor contract jail, and just refused them to be able to continue competing and watch that ranking deteriorate, for example. I just think this team has a lot of capacity to perform. I love that there's more talent on this ex-Navi Juniors team than people made out, because Mikaze held the limelight, and it's why he got the promotion. But there were always going to be pieces that were left out. And it just feeds back into my ex-Navi Juniors Spirit Academy, like, sell those teams to other organizations narrative that I've been pushing for a while now. They're going to have an opportunity at the Bounty as well to take on the team that they've selected for the Bounty is Bait, who let me down in Cologne. So now I'm just full on
You're
invested.
full hate, Maxon. You're like, fuck this team.
They've picked the right team to cause upsets.
Yeah, I see the vision. I see what you mean. Like, I've watched a lot of Navi Junior, and I've always, in the same way I was always rallying against the way people viewed Spirit Academy, I've always thought there were some other things worth being excited for, some other players on the Navi Junior side. Now, Mikaze was, by far and away for me, the best player, in terms of his current level mostly, because I think Demon has the potential to be as good. Raw mechanics-wise, he does have that. I think that upside is the best way to think about it. But he's so young. I think is he just turned 17 or is he still 16? Just turned 17.
Yeah.
He's not an old guy. Has plenty of time. In the past 3 months, he's got a 120 rating, which is crazy. This is a player who has that sort of potential to be the replacement in overall output to Mikaze. I just think we're about 6 months away. I feel like this is a team that's probably going to plateau a bit. Not going to be very impressive. They played one game together, which isn't much of a sample, really. They played one game against VP Prodigy, lost 2-0. Like, they're still fresh. They're still working on it. I'm just not sold that this is the time to be buying this stock. Like, for me, this is a stock that's going to be... I'm thinking it'll deteriorate by probably another 5 to 10 points. And that'll probably take another month. And then after that, we'll see where it's at. But I'm not too excited about currently their prospects, because Jugs, as I've been corrected in my own Mikaze video, I call him Jigs or whatever, and they were like, how hard is it to say Jugs and put it written Joogs? And I was like, well, it's not written Joogs, you nonce. Like, how are we supposed to know that DZIUGZSS? Like, yeah, it's Jugs. Like,
Jugs, okay.
How am I supposed to know that? But Jugs and Symmetry for me are just, they don't move the needle enough, and I've seen them play at this level for so long that I don't think they have that next gear to take. And I needed someone right now to step up and fill in that Mikaze void. I don't think Masuta's good enough. I think he's talented. I think he's a fine acquisition if you're just trying to replace Mikaze in terms of role. And in terms of some of the output, like he's going to hit some of the entries Mikaze used to. I just don't think he's going to hit as many and be as good on such volume. Like we've seen Mikaze go to Cologne and kind of replicate his abilities, his form. Masuta, we also saw at Tier 1, he didn't have that juice. And I don't think he has the same juice in Tier 2 either. So I think this is a team that will be a bit stagnant. I think there is a lot of value to be found if you're trying to pick this roster apart for pieces. Like if I'm taking like Krabany and Demon to try and form a longer duration project that I'm willing to let sit and marinate and develop. But I don't think this is an immediate success. Like right now that this team's going to be even top 30 on VRS. So that's why I'm going to pass. Sure. I'm not going to short it because I'm not that sure. Like I still think Demon's got that upside. I still think Krabany's like a really wily sort of caller who knows how to use his own abilities quite well. But I'm just not sold.
Yeah, I will say that's the only concern is that their efforts to replace Mikaze have been relatively futile. I mean, they tried pulling Mateos from Copenhagen Wolves, and that was not great. I mean, he was...
Yeah, he's a player who needs to be in academies. He's just too old, I think, to get considered.
Yeah. He's also he was fairly mid when he played with them. Like, didn't have the same flair, didn't have the same mechanics, ceiling, I don't think. But yeah, this team is young and... You know, to be honest, now that they're able to stretch their legs and compete in other tournaments where they are going to probably maybe encounter Na'Vi, and there's no conflict of interest anymore. I have high hopes, you know, that they can justify their ranking outside of Mikaze.
Will be interesting.
It's a riskier investment for me.
It's one of your riskiest buys, I think, in a long time. Like I thought Iberian Soul were quite clearly on the way up. That was fine, but this is maybe a bit of a reach. But we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. I'm just currently going through their games with Mateos to see how he was playing, just on a raw numbers front. Because I liked him on Copenhagen Wolves at one point. Like he was putting up good stats. He was very assertive, very confident. And yeah, actually, Mateos played okay.
Yeah, it was just okay though.
Yeah, could have done better. So yeah, no, you're buying them. I'm politely declining, basically, not shorting, just politely declining. But we get on to what has become the roster move of the year, despite happening not in the actual roster mania, happening a bit afterwards. And that is Simple, who has gone and joined BC Game. I mean, who had... Firstly, as I put it at the bottom there, nobody had this on their bingo card. Nobody was even considering Simple going to BC Game. I am alarmed. I'm confused. I'm morbidly curious. And I think this is going to work relative to our format. I think buying this stock and watching it slowly rise into probably the top 50 is the way to go forward. But I don't know if this was Simple's best option. Like, as far as ways to continue his career, this seems like a bit of a wild turn. I don't know. Do you rate this move? For BC Game, obviously, if you can get Simple, get Simple. But for Simple, do you like this?
It may have been the only team that could afford the buyout, so I guess I can't hate it from that point of view. Like, if his options are don't play or play on BC Game, I think for him, I'd think he'd rather play. So I don't think it's gonna jeopardize his career. I think he's just gonna have to carry this team out of Tier 2, and I think he'll do it. So I don't think there's any real issues with that.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the core, though, I've been, unfortunately, watching these sorts of players for a while. Like Nexa, Tetsunito. I'm just so underwhelmed by the roster he's joining. Now, there's been conversation about a trio from a Tier 1 org being added to this group. Overdrive has leaked that. I'm assuming they would replace essentially what is currently the BC Game core of Nexa, Tetsunito, and yes, of course, how can I forget the almighty Prime Taps? I don't even know which core that would be.
Could be another team that we are destined to talk about at some point in the show.
Honestly, it could be, given the kind of money they've been throwing around. Honestly, the relative mediocrity of the core they currently have. Not even adding Andu could spice that up for me, really. He's cool, but he's not that good a player. Like, this is a very aggressively mid team. I don't know where it goes from here.
Yeah, it's curious because they almost certainly should rise in ranking. But the idea of Simple in tier 2 and now being collectively in the Counter-Strike zeitgeist, being the everyone's favorite tier 2 player, is kind of hilarious.
Oh, the number of shit takes you've just reminded me I have to now endure as all the tier 1, like, only watching the big games people who are going to show up in tier 2 chats and start having opinions on tier 3 and tier 2 play. Oh, God.
It's going to happen. That's the Simple effect.
They're going to be so dumb.
Yeah. I'm like, wow. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I don't really... I might just... I do have Liquid to talk about later, but they could buy pieces from Liquid.
Yeah, currently the offering's not exactly tantalizing from Liquid, is it?
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
you know,
who do you want as a combo? Let's go through this thought exercise. Which ones do you actually want to pick up?
Shuei Twists. Nerds.
Yeah, Twist excites me. Have you watched a Nerds POV in the last 3 months?
Sure, but I'm just saying it could happen.
Like, look, as far as
those are all value pieces in my eyes.
So is a chicken drumstick, but I don't want to play CS with it. Like I've watched them play tier 3 teams, like low level teams, recently. Now, of course, they played VP Prodigy and lost.
Yep.
They lost to Sashi. Do you know who's performed in both those games? NAF. Do you know the kind of teams they're going to have to play with incredible regularity if they want to make it out of this? Tier 3 teams, the likes of which NAF farmed against. So I got a weird feeling. If I actually want to make it work with a trio from Liquid, give me Shuhei, give me Twist, give me NAF. And Shuhei, you're only coming through on reputation. Like, you have been so bad in a lot of games. And I've watched your POV, and it's been horrible. I've seen the calls. They've been pretty underwhelming. You're only coming through because of your age, basically.
Yeah, and you're
it's
a
been
caller.
A terrible run.
Yeah, you're a caller that, well, surely there's something to that. You know, you've got someone to shoulder that burden instead of one of your star players.
Yeah, it's better than having Twist try it again. So I'd still take Shuhei along, but it's been a dreadful 3 months for him specifically too. As far as where that would leave them, look, even without this roster move, we both expect them to cruise through tier 2 because we just expect Simple to skill diff everyone and, you know, play make, be confident, and then the rest of the team to just tag along.
If Simple gets humbled in tier 2 and actually cannot skill diff them,
there's no guarantee he does skill diff.
No,
anyone.
I know.
Like,
real. I know there's no guarantee. It's just also a part of everyone's soul will die that day.
Yeah, like if they get to face teams like Alliance, yeah, he should absolutely crush them. But yeah, it seemed like Colossi he should smash.
Yep.
I'm just looking for someone who's going to be a bit difficult. I think Ensign not going to be the easiest opponent, even with their weird IGL situation. Like, they've got some talent. Some of these Russian teams going to be really hard to face as far as their ability to just match him frag for frag. I mean, they're probably going to lose. I'd have them losing to Paravision right now. Like, this is just, it's not as clean and easy as it once was. Like, you need to be farming a weak region to guarantee anything in this world. Like, in this Counter-Strike world, you really need something easy. Very few teams who've gone through the EU grind have made it out the other end. We were talking pre-show, giving shit tons of credit to Snappy for getting that NIP side out of the doldrums. Unless BC Game have some sort of cheesy LAN lined up where they're the only good team, but it's BRS ranked and they can go up 50 spots, we're going to have some difficult matches. Some squeaky bum time games.
Sure.
Before he makes it to tier 1.
This is the Simple confidence investment. It's maybe not even... Yeah, not going to be a straightforward run, I'm sure.
Yeah, but hopefully, for both of our sakes, our portfolios will continue to swell with points. As Simple carries BC Game to relevance. That brings us to the end of our sort of special graphics section. As we go back to the main screen and add the teams we've been discussing to our portfolios. Now on my side, we do have BC Game added for you. Foot and BC Game join us on screen. Let's talk about your final two buys. Let's start off with... Let's talk about Liquid. Screw it. We've already started our sort of discussion. It's not exactly positive, is it? It's been a rather ugly run for Liquid. You've got them shorted right now. How far do you see this going?
I think, unfortunately, when I see, and this is just pure vibes-based analysis, but we're in a meme stock economy at the moment, so you may as well dive right in both feet. And when I see tweets like "We're not a team, it's embarrassing" from Twists, who is a key figure on Liquid, I think it's fair to say, it fills me with a lot of dead team energy. That they've been trying to accommodate and fix the NAF issue. They didn't make a roster move during roster mania or during the off season. That everyone was like, "Huh, are you sure about that?" And then they've now lost to VP Prodigy, who not a lot of people would have on their radar, but maybe we should. They beat Foot, another team I've invested in. They beat Liquid, and they're
playing good CS as well.
Yeah, they have been playing good Counter-Strike, so maybe we should actually start paying attention. But nobody would have had them over Liquid in any sort of capacity, and now that's happened. That feels like a catalyst for change. If not only by the player reactions, but also the community going collectively, "What the fuck? Like, is this actually how far this is descending?" Because we could say it was NAF slumping and having the worst form of his career. Fine, I'm right there with you. But how is everybody else struggling? Like, how is Twist struggling to get output? How is Ultimate's mediocrity actually not shining through at this sort of level when that's where he was scouted from in the first place? How is Nertz not curb stomping them on entries?
Nertz just incapable of curb stomping, it seems. Like, on this team, he's just fallen apart. I
just don't understand how it is broken this way. And so I can only look at it and think this stock is going to end up crashing.
Oh, it definitely will. It's going to crash and burn. This is a stock that physically cannot rise, I think, at this point. There is no possibility for it to go up. It will eventually plateau when the actual team behind it gets sold for scrap. And that'll be it. There'll be minimal return on this unless you short it. It's been ugly. Yeah, I don't really... When I watch the games as well, the worst part is when I talk to people about, like, who would you save from this team? Who do you like? Maybe people like Twists. People seem to be happy to give Shuhei another chance. Everyone else is just getting thrown on the pyre. Like, without hesitation. It's the general consensus I'm getting when I put out feelers, when I talk to people, when I see what their take is on Liquid. It's a horror show. It's truly bad. Baffling as well.
I would definitely say Nertz is... Like, I've seen too much good from Nertz over the years to completely write him off. Maybe he's not as... he's not a brand new Cadillac like he once was, but he'll still get you from A to B, in my opinion, if he's set up in the right ways. Like, give that man gas and he will drive you through some of the difficulties, I think. It's just, right now, Liquid are... I don't know what Liquid are. Are they trying to go with, like, hydrogen powered, or are they trying to rely on solar energy? I don't know what it is, but that is clearly not fueling this team enough.
They're stuck in the desert drinking their own piss is what Liquid are doing. Like, they are not any kind of vehicle. They're just stuck and surviving. It's been rough, and I don't see a way out. I just don't see how this magically turns around. Even though in theory all these pieces should be better than they have been playing. They've been playing so poorly for so long. I'm done. There's not even any glimmer of hope for me. Let me move on to a couple of my picks. I'm going to knock off two at the same time, basically. I'm going to talk about them separately, of course. They are different teams, but I'm just going to talk about them here in this block. I'm going to pick up Sangal and Odic.
Right.
Now, these are both picks for similar reasons, and that's why I'm just going to lead off with them both. Just take them, clear things up, and then we can break them down one by one. But they both teams who I think are currently underrated by VRS. Sangal sit roughly, I think, at 60. and Odic actually around the same spot. Sangal 67, Odic 64. Both on VRS quite low. Sangal, for me, are a team who... This group of players is actually pretty solid. Not all of them have played together before, but they have in various combos, I think. Like Klax, Patsy, Norway obviously were together on Aurora. Result, I feel like, has played with some of these guys somewhere.
I would have played with Norway.
Yeah.
Result and Klax swapped rosters. 9 Pandas, Aurora at the same time.
Yeah, so he was on Aurora before then, so
yes,
it does make sense. He has played with these guys before. And sure, there was a bit of a weird rift when he left that team, but clearly things have resolved. And Danists is just talented. Like, no matter what he does, he seems able to do it. He was a rifler for a while. He was like more of a passive rifler, trading, closing. It worked. He's been AWPing. It works. Like, this is a roster I expect to outperform their current sort of position in the world. 64 for a team of this caliber, who've had every individual on this team basically has been within the top 40 in the last sort of 18 months. I expect them to return to that sort of range, so I think they're a bit of a value add. Similarly-ish is Odic, the Brazilian roster, freshly added coldzera. 4 days ago, he's played 8 maps, 1.07 rated. Not half bad. And they're a team who are slowly on the up. Mostly led by Kyousuke and Knight, I think usually, or Nate. Those are the two guys who typically I see putting up numbers. I think there's a chance they could not only come out and just outperform this current ranking at 64, their HLTV world ranking is 32. So just for comparison's sake, like there is a vast difference between the two. But they do have a few Americas events coming up, including a weird sort of LAN final with Imperial Sharks and Red Canids, which given current forms, I definitely think they could take home and give me a cheeky little 10-point dividend. So I think there's some value hidden in this team as well. Not the biggest coldzera guy, but I think this move is probably an improvement for them considering who they are.
Yeah, I think Odic is probably the better of those two, just simply from, small region competition, fighting domestic competition, essentially. Like, Odic are actually one of these contender teams that I think is... Yeah, I think this is an astute pick from you. The Sangal one is a bit... I'm not sure, actually, about the Sangal one, because I do agree the pieces are probably good enough to rise through the ranking, but I've also just seen so... Maybe it's because I'm so down on Patsy as a player. Like, how have him and Yakindar gone from, like, the best entries at one point or another in the world to being just kind of scraps? And Yakindar's kind of recovering a little bit, but I assume it'll be Result calling on that Sangal team.
I think it'll be Klax, won't it?
No, Klax has never been a caller. Result's at least toyed with it before.
No, it's just Norway. Fuck it. Isn't he been doing it for a while?
Norway also has been doing it for a little bit. Yeah, okay, I guess it probably is Norway.
Yeah, I was trying to think who was calling on that team before. No, not their specific team necessarily, but back in the Aurora days.
But, I mean, back in the Aurora days, it was like Lackey was calling, and then I think Result was calling, and then Norway took over, and then Result left. I think that's...
Norway is currently
that's
listed
the timeline,
as well as the IGL, so as far as we know, that'll be the call, but yeah. Up in the air.
But they tried a few different swaps to the in-game leader role, is what I think it ultimately came down to. So yeah, it'll be between those two at the very least. And I just don't see them breaking through unless that Danis edition is actually just going to elevate them that much. I guess I will reserve my judgment for when I see more from them, but it is cool at least that, there's so many Russian talented players that are sort of out there that we can just basically form whole new teams. I mean, most of them came off of that Aurora bench that was just continuously finding more players to put on it. So I'm glad at least the players are able to compete instead of being stuck in contract jail.
Yeah, and I think they'll be decent. I do think they'll be decent. Maybe not super mega world beaters, but again, it's all about outperforming that current ranking. They should rise a bit. I'm pretty optimistic. Now, you've got one final buy that's... Which one is it? Oh, yeah. It is another big name. We're back to a pretty elite team. Yeah, talk us through this one. Finally a believer now again?
Well, I don't think I've ever really been a massive believer, but yeah, I've gone with Mouse. They're a team I consistently underestimate, and then I almost feel justified all the time when they choke or they fail. But I also just cannot ignore that they are the most successful, unsuccessful team this year. Like they are making it to finals. They are making it up to these big events. They're losing to the team that wins the event pretty much consistently throughout every one of these tournaments, and yet they've still won a tournament in there. I can't ignore Mouse. I don't agree with the route they've taken, but I can't argue with the success it's laid out. That we've gotten better. We've just gotten a better level out of like the star pieces on this roster outside of Jimmy. You know, Jim Fat is certified unfurled watch these days. But Zershin, Torji,
I do have some time for him. I do have some consideration for him, given this year.
I'm putting them on forward watch. But I like what I'm getting out of Torji, Spinks, and Zershin most of the time. That this team just needs to break past like a mental barrier. I think almost all of it is mental.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of it is their T sides. I do think their T sides are very sporadic and, loosey goosey, a little too reliant on mid rounds. But that's also why I categorize them as the best mid round team in the world, is because they so frequently in these games actually find bailouts or like a double kill out of nowhere, and it's like the round is back on. So they've got a lot of capability that cannot be ignored. But to be honest, get that Jimmy guy out of here. Once he was exposed as a Twitter timeline gooner, he's never been the same.
But look, here's the problem I have with all this, is that Jimmy, based on his roles and the way Spinks plays relative to how, oh lord, Shuhei kind of acted alongside Brolan, Spinks, I think, kind of steps on Jimmy's toes. In terms of the ways Jimmy used to find his big moments, his big multis, later in a round, sweeping up a couple bodies, maybe it's rotating in, maybe it's just clutching a bit. Spinks is kind of in the way. He's not a middle of the pack kind of guy quite often on this team. He is trying to make more one-off extremity plays. And that kind of, I think, just kind of gets in the way of Jim Fat. So that's why I've got a little bit of leniency for him, especially because coming in, Spinks has been able to play his own game and find good numbers. And then they're winning events not winning many events. They've won one event, Cluj Napoca, but they haven't finished outside of the top 4 anything else with 4 grand finals out after that event. Like, that's absolutely incredible. And another thing to just give him a bit more credit, he has Zontic's figures. Like, we're willing to accept Zontic as the 3rd best team on a title-winning team. Jimmy is the same KPR and DPR. Like, outright.
But Jimmy has more star roles.
That is very arguable. Like, I think the two are both got their own, like, both got their own sort of extremities, their own little things they can profit off of, but realistically, there's not a great deal of difference for me. I'm not seeing that. I'm really not. And I think Jimmy, especially this year, has had to do more. Well, he's been asked to do more with less. He hasn't done more with less. He's done less with less, and I think that's totally fine. Like, I do really think that you're correct. The only thing limiting this team is mental stuff. Like, they just had to get past Vitality. They needed to finally beat Vitality, and they did. Then, as we said, that was their war. They came back exhausted, defeated. Well, not defeated, but, so done and so drained that they couldn't put up a fight against Spirit, really. I mean, Map 2 looked pretty strong until it all collapsed entirely. Like, they just couldn't get anything going on their T side. I do think this is a team who are just a few things away, just a few mental blocks away. Like, now they've got rid of the Vitality one, maybe they're one step closer to being able to win a few events in this season. Maybe this season's going to be split between 3 or 4 different teams as far as who's actually winning the events. But I don't think I can really point the finger at any individual in terms of the output and their roles. I think that's unjust to Jim.
Yeah, I think the only thing for Mouse in in Jimmy's defense, I guess, is when I look at this team, I can't look at any piece and go, I would upgrade this guy for this guy. You know, outside of like plugging in vitality pieces into Mal's, which is unrealistic. I can't look at Jimmy and go, well, this guy will be a better fit, because it does seem like there's a real like camaraderie, brotherhood type thing to the Mal's team. At least that's what I thought when, you know, Spinks and Shuei got swapped, and I was like, wait, what? They actually did make a roster move. That's crazy. But, you know, the weird part is that going into that final, like, Brolin, it's like Brolin was looking around, like, down the table and just thinking, guys, why do I have no help? It's actually some of the best players this season are on my team, and they just all shied away. So, yeah, it is mental. I guess for me, I've never really fully bought into Jimmy. Again, I think I've talked to you about this before, but
yeah,
you know, the clutching, the late round vacuum stuff. I actually think he lacks awareness in a lot of those moments where other people in his roles frequently don't get caught out the way he does. I can't argue with his mechanics on an individual level. I actually think a lot of it just comes down to like decision making, clearing what he thinks is a threat. I think that still needs to catch up to a lot of other elite players. But yeah, this Mouse team, I do agree. Just they're gonna keep whittling away. They'll probably win one more tournament this year, but I don't think it'll be more than that actually.
Yeah. Will be difficult to see. I mean, we're given the teams we already have at the top. There's no guarantee of them winning much else. Like, if they get a good event in terms of the teams attending, yeah, could give them a win. But it's going to be difficult to see them consistently or, yeah, really with any regularity or any predictability beating Spirit or Vitality.
Yeah, for example, I think if they played Vitality again, they'd lose.
Good chance.
I genuinely believe if they played Vitality again
you're never going to get that level of ZywOo again. You're never going to be able to face Vitality with that ZywOo. So thankfully you beat them, but still, I don't think that's going to be it's going to be possible or reliable. So no, I'm on the same sort of reservation as you are. I don't really see them winning a lot, but you've got them winning one more. Probably that's why you've added them to your picks. Maybe one dividend drop will make it worth it. Let's wrap up the show with my pick, who I've partially picked because they're playing very well right now, and partially because they got a free win coming up, and it's funny to shit on Liquid. Ecstatic. They're number 28 in the world, so it's not like they have some sort of crazy low ranking position, and they're going to be climbing super high off the back of only one win. But they've just been playing great CS. I've got to give them that credit. They've qualified for Blast Open London. They're going to be playing at the Blast Bounty, and they're playing, as I said, Liquid. It's a free win already, just sorted. That's one of them taken care of. They've been consistently placing really well at events. They won the Eliza Nordic Championship. They finished top 4 at Glitch Masters. They consistently make top 8s, top 4s at smaller events and cups. And they do occasionally win them, like Power League and A1 Gaming League. These aren't huge events, but they're little tier 2 cups. They take care of business against some really tough rosters. TMB transitioning to IGL for all these years, it sometimes looked like it was a bit of a futile effort. Should have maybe stuck to his mechanical work and developing as an individual, but if these are the results he's going to get out of Nut, Syra, and Lele, so be it. I feel so silly saying those players' names, but it has been working. Nut's had a great week. He's been really showing it up. I don't think he's some extraordinary mind-bending talent. I don't think anyone on this team is super duper mega talented. Syra has some potential, but like, they're just solid players playing good CS behind a solid caller, and that's just been working.
Sure. Greater than the sum of their parts.
Definitely.
I can't say I've really kept track of these players. I mean, I've encountered all of them through the years in tier 2 teams like Christo and Lele. To see TMB, like you said, calling, I'm pretty sure he tried calling like a few years ago.
He's been trying calling since that point, pretty much.
Okay, well, yeah. I think that was like 3 or 4 years ago, though. It's like, When I can't remember the last time I seriously had a conversation surrounding TMB.
Well, considering he's 23, he's been in tier 2 Danish hell, basically, except for those weird mixed teams he occasionally pops up in. Like, it's an opposition to be. I mean, I really liked him on Mad Lions at the time when he joined them. Like,
That was probably the last time I really had a conversation about him. Was the AGF to Mad Lions? Yeah,
like AGF to Mad Lions. He joins Mad Lions are doing some nonsense with multiple hybrid AWPers, kind of doing the AWP by committee. He tries calling on it towards the end. It's all ugly, all scrappy, all messy.
TMB has tried to be an AWPer himself as well, by the way. Like, he was a rifler, turned into AWPer for a little bit, then went to like support roles, and then.
He's tried a lot of stuff, but he's been doing the IGL thing for quite a while now. Quite a while. And I thought, honestly, he showed potential quite early on. Like, when I first saw him on a team allegedly calling, I was like, is he playing OKCS? And he's playing the role the way I want an IGL to do it, where he's supportive, he's dying, he's being traded. Like, I think he's got something going, some potential here. And Ecstatic has been so far his most successful project. By a long shot. He's been there since September of last year, so it makes sense. They've been together pretty much as a team. Not quite that long, I don't think, but a lot of these guys have been on the team for a while. Let me just double check my notes. Yeah, Anile, Christu, Nut have been together since August last year. TMB joins them to replace Towson in October, and then they replaced Nixon this year with Syra. It's a steady core. It's a very steady core. So I feel like they've got some potential, some room to grow. And plus a layup victory against Liquid, just waiting for them.
Yeah. Syra as well. This is the same Syra that stood in with Mouse for an event, I believe.
He was, the Mouse and XD kid.
Yeah. And he wasn't... And it wasn't a great foray, great debut, I don't believe. But he was okay. Like,
no, I don't think it went well. But to be fair, no one who's ever had that sort of debut with Mouse has ever done well.
No one's...
They tried promoting Zelex a couple times to stand in, and that went horrifically. I also think Syra's a better player than Zelex, but still, that's not the point.
Oh, sorry, it was with Heroic, actually. Like, when he was under Miles NXT, like, he went to Heroic. Yes, it was Heroic.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to find exactly when that happened.
2023. Rubet Cup.
Oh, that.
And then Thunderpick World Championship.
All right, got it. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a terrible run.
Yeah, sorry, I sort of misremembered. I'm like, I swear Mouse had, I'm thinking of a different player, I'm pretty sure. Mouse had a player stand in for an event.
Zelex. It was Xelex.
Zelex. Yeah,
he was horrible. To be honest, he's never really sparked my interest on the academy side either, but he was horrible in that stand-in stint. But yeah, I mean, look, when Syra played for Heroic, he's put up a 1.08. Like, his numbers are fine. Like, it's not anything to write home about. Like, it's not that crazy, but it's solid. And he's playing, again, not the craziest teams, but did well against Big. Thumped Nouns, which I'd hope so.
Yep. I can't believe I'm copying your investment strategy after a solid month. I'm also diving into these, like, outside of the top 60 stocks.
You know it's worth it. You know the value's there.
It probably is.
For me, a bad month was still a 24% gain. Like, come on. Yeah. Join the dark side. We can also start insider trading if you want. We can start sending DMs to orgs.
Yeah.
Seeing, like, who's available. How's Pratt going? Has there been any conflict in this team?
Yeah. Other people are trying to insider trade for more nefarious reasons. We just want to do it for our own pride on a podcast.
So what?
There are levels, clearly.
There are levels to this game, and we are right at the bottom. But that's okay. We don't mind. But all right. Thank you for watching. Thank you to SkinClub for hosting the show. Didn't mention it earlier, but we are very thankful, hence the logo. This has been another interesting episode. I think with some weird teams picked up, some positions taken that could pay out, could absolutely ruin us. We'll see what happens. Leave a comment telling us your thoughts on any of our picks. Sub if you want to see more from this series. We've got another episode coming in a month's time, roughly. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.